Welcome everyone, I am DwangoAC, keeper of TASBot. I have with me here TI-Kevin83 and MediaMagnet. We have a couple of slides about who we are. I am the president of the North Bay Linux Users Group. I'm an advocate for open source software and self-learning. I also do some software engineering at Siena as my day job. I am the ambassador for TASvideos.org. So if you go to TASvideos.org, I am on-site staff there, amazingly. They are crazy. Over here we have MediaMagnet at the end.
I animated, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay, I don't mind. This is MediaMagnet. He is a Twitch streamer. I'll let him explain who he is.
I also speedrun Stanley Parable. Find me at twitch.tv/MediaMagnet or on Twitter between MediaMagnet Game. I couldn't actually just get MediaMagnet. And I do TASes. And I work in server support at Dell.
And I'm TI-Kevin83. I speedrun Pokemon Yellow's glitchless category in RTA and also the backyard baseball 6-inning and 9-inning categories. I'm 6th in Yellow RTA, and I'm a former world record holder in backyard baseball. And I just did the TAS of Pokemon Yellow's glitchless category. That's a really fun one. I'm on Twitch at TI-Kevin83, Twitter at TI-Kevin83, and I do web development for Macatawa Bank in Michigan.
So what I want to talk today about is start with the basics of what most people in this room know, but some people in the talk that are watching it later online won't. Although if you're watching, you probably do. But just for the sake of completeness, we're going to talk about speedrunning and human limits. So human speedrunning has been around for a while. The inspiration was in-game completion timers. Metroid was a classic example. Depending on how fast you completed the game, you would end up with different graphics at the end of completing the game. And sometimes people started just speedrunning to get to the end as fast as they could, generally any percent. But sometimes you do some pretty crazy things like low percent, no major glitches, or other categories. And Speed Demos Archive has really been kind of the forerunner to what, I guess you might say that they were the established place for all speedrun records, and still are. There's still some other websites that have popped up since then, but I would say SDA is still very relevant even today. And there are other websites that track the fastest completion times from humans. There are very strict rules, especially for SDA. Peer reviews, make sure no one is using any cheats, macros, anything that might augment human play. And they're typically very entertaining because it's human skill on display. Now contrast that to tool-assisted speedruns or super plays. You're moving from human limits to hardware limits. And a tool-assisted speedrun or a TAS, that word can be used any way you like. I'm a TASer working on Tetris. Anyway, you get the idea. Well, it has an interesting lineage. It actually started all the way back in Doom. So a lot of people don't remember the tools that got added in to allow things like Doom Done Quick to be done even quicker. But the idea was you'd be able to use save states, you'd be able to play the game in slow motion and record your progress and make a movie file, was what it was referred to as. And it was pretty impressive what they were able to do. Well, in 2003, a video started circulating around the web. It was an 18 megabyte WMV file released in 2003 that was just insane. I mean, you had Mario getting right next to flowers, and he was getting 99 lives, and this guy was playing insanely well. And it was really controversial because once people started looking into it, they realized it was made with tool-assisted speedrun techniques, not necessarily frame advance at the time, but slow motion, save states. It was made in Fantasia by someone named Morimoto. And the problem was that the video that was circulated didn't say that it was made with tools. And the issue really was that it was inhuman skill on display. The really key point here is that when you're doing tool-assisted speedruns, tools mean that the hardware becomes the limit. It's not human a limit. And really, TASing looks like the doped Olympics, right? If you go in and you say, I'm completely clean, and you're competing in the Olympics, and you're lying, and you're actually amped up on something, that doesn't work very well. Well, that's basically how the speedrunning community looked at this. And really, if you're going to dope in the doped Olympics, then you should admit to doping. And to take that analogy one step further, videos made with TAS tools should be labeled as such. So if you're going to compete in the Olympics while you're doped, you should say you are. Just saying. So to kind of solve this problem, in 2004, Biscuit, well, technically late 2003, Biscuit made NES videos, which eventually became TAS videos. And it's now the de facto location for tool-assisted speedruns. It's a pretty good repository of all kinds of speedruns, or tool-assisted speedruns for all kinds of different platforms, not just Nintendo. Now, there's a few things that happened over time. The biggest one was definitely emulation accuracy becoming more advanced. In the early days, especially Fantasia, if you go back and watch that original Morimoto video, the sound is weird, the effects don't sound right, the speed is kind of funny. It worked, you could play the game, but it wasn't exactly right. Well, through the process of clean room reverse engineering or just flat out stealing manuals, a lot of people were able to work on these different emulators and move them from poor accuracy to really high accuracy. Sometimes certain emulators went too far, like SNES and Huygen, and they resulted in extremely good accuracy, but not necessarily the best usability. But that's okay. The point, though, is that these were able to match hardware frame by frame. And one of the examples you can see in the screenshot is in early emulators, the transparency of that cloud in Kirby couldn't be seen correctly. It was just an opaque green cloud. And later emulators were able to properly show the transparency that you see in the lower right. There's a large number of emulators out there for a bunch of different platforms, specifically NES. There's a couple different emulators for NES. I like FCEUX because obviously I'm running Linux and everything, LSNES, and a bunch of others. There's also some re-recording frameworks. They aren't properly emulators, and probably the most well-known of those is Hourglass. It is not an emulator. It is a framework that allows you to record sequences of button presses in Windows into a, a Windows TAS file or a WTF file. And gotta love them with a sense of humor. This was what Cave Story was originally made with. There's also a couple of other weird re-recording frameworks. I made one for TASing the game NetHack. It's pretty crazy. It's this entire mess of Python scripts around KVM, virtual machines, and it works really well. But we started working on the NetHack TAS in 2010. It's now 2018. We hope we can finish in the next 2 years. We're at 35,000 words describing what we're doing. Anyway, so sometimes we end up with cases where we're doing frameworks for specific games. And if you are here at the event and the Celeste TAS makes the incentive of $65,000, which is a tall order, if it makes it in, you will see a re-recording framework made specifically just for Celeste. So keep your eyes open for that. Now, what I want to kind of hand over here is I'm gonna see how well this works. We didn't exactly test this really great. We're gonna hand this over to MediaMagnet, and he's going to show you some frame advance stuff.
Well, yeah, we definitely did test it.
We didn't test it. Throw that over to you.
All right. So I actually don't even have my emulator open because I forgot we were doing this. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay.
So frame advance is a way to basically pick your movement as you go along. You kind of hold down a key, hit the button to move forward. It does the thing in a very basic.
While he's getting set up here, I'll just move through these slides pretty quickly. As he just said, it does allow you to advance 1/60th of a second. For most games, they're 60 frames a second.
Yeah. Sorry, not prepared.
Not a problem.
I always have to plug the Pokemon and Game Boy games being 59.7275 frames per second.
Yeah. That is weird.
Thanks, Nintendo.
Why? Why?
So ignore the task editor part on the right-hand side. More of what I was doing. I was working on the same kind of thing that Tina ended up doing for his interview segment yesterday.
Yeah. For context, Tina Hacks made a task in BizHawk, the BizHawk emulator, of a ROM hack made by Mitch Flowerpower, showing this really interesting effect in Super Mario Bros. 3 that's not well known. And MediaMagnet made one as well inside of inside of FCUX with this task editor view open. So you're going to see a little bit of a sneak preview of what you're going to talk about.
Right.
But go ahead.
Sorry, I'm not trying to step on your face. Just the easiest. So what I was doing was like holding down. You see that little held thing? You can just. All right. So I want to hold A, and I'll just keep pressing A. And it's gonna. If I had record on, it would actually do things. It actually would cause A to be held the whole time as I'm walking through the frames. So I just died. But it will cause. So like in my actually better one. I know which one I actually used it in.
Oh, a different run?
Yeah, a different run.
Oh, that's okay. we do need to move on pretty quick. But
Yeah,
while you're
just-
doing that,
Just keep going then.
yeah. So we do have the we have a couple of things, right? You can make your life easier. TASing in a lot of ways, if you're doing it that way, it's almost like using a corded keyboard, if you've ever heard of that. You're going to hold down, maybe run right for great justice, so you're going to hold whatever key you've bound on your keyboard to the right button on your controller, whatever key you've bound to run, B, whatever the case may be. And while you're holding those two keys, then you're going to hit a third key to say advance the emulator 1 frame. So you just tap that button, and then it accepts that input, and then you just keep changing what buttons you're holding as you continuously keep tapping the frame advance button.
Like a bottom middle picture there, the held, that was the auto hold. That's the auto hold. It's going to basically constantly hold down left, and in this case it was for defender. So you're going to constantly hold down left and shoot, which is A.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next little bit. So there's some other crazy things you can do, like memory searching and disassembly tools. You can add in entire Lua scripting to really take it to the next level.
Sorry about that.
And it's more than just frame advance and save states. It's really taking things to the next level. So you can see here in the lower section of this screen, you've got Mario with a specific speed. You can see he's going right over the top of this fire flower at the maximum speed you could. You can use these to make it easier to figure out, am I moving Mario at the most optimal speed based on peeking into memory and showing that on screen. And you can even disassemble an entire RAM or ROM. And Binary Ninja is a reverse engineering tool, kind of like IDA Pro, that is a little more flexible, especially for this kind of case. This is extraordinarily extreme. Very few things need to get to this level. But when we did the Super Mario Bros. 3 17 frame, less than 1 second completion of the game, we needed to fully understand every last bit of what the controller code was doing. And so by disassembling the ROM inside of an IDE that's designed to help you with reverse engineering, it really helped to see what the branching code paths were and take that code and make it a little bit more understandable. So kudos to Binary Ninja for making an absolutely amazing product. And Jordan and Rusty are just awesome folks. So
I'm going to give you guys a quick overview of some of the more advanced features of using BizHawk's Task Studio to script inputs. So once you get through the basic concept of scripting those inputs with frame advance, you can open up the Task Studio editor. There's a quick picture on the left there of how to get it to it in BizHawk. And you can also open the memory tools so you can see what's going on in memory at the same time and help you move forward with frames at the same time that you're looking at those important addresses and line things up. So the Task Studio helps you visualize all the inputs you're seeing over a bunch of frames and see patterns that emerge. There.
let's see. You got the next slide. There you go.
So we're going to go through starting out a task on the TI-83 calculator, actually, in Task Studio. There's a core. The way BizHawk works, there's cores for each system you want to emulate. So BizHawk is the overarching platform for TASing, and then each platform, like the Game Boy, TI-83, NES, SNES, any of those things have a core. And the Task Studio can work with any of those cores and let you script inputs. So the first thing you've got to do is figure out how your inputs are mapped. The TI-83 is awesome. It has like 40 buttons. So it's really difficult to figure out what all the buttons are. But there, you can look through on your control scheme there. And what we found out is that the O button is how it can turn on. You actually have to turn on the TI-83 calculator as the first action of your task, because the true on is when you insert the CMOS batteries. So we binary search for inputs anytime we're looking for the first input we want to do. And what you basically do is you just spray an input. So like for this instance, the first thing we need to do is press the on button. We did this giant stream of on presses, and you can see how over the few images we have there, we narrow down the on press from 60 frames to, maybe just try going through frame 30. Oh, we're still getting that power on where you can see mem cleared shows up. That shows that the TI-83 powered on. Well, maybe we need to do even fewer frames. So then we went down to just between frames of, I think, like 15 and 25. And we narrowed it all the way down for going from both sides, so we're not starting any earlier or finishing any later than we need to. Just doing those 3 frames. I think it's either 18 through 20 or 19 through 21 are the optimal frames for powering on the calculator. And then from there, once you've figured out that, you can just keep going with all the rest of your inputs that you need to do for whatever task.
Next one.
So why are we messing with the TI-83 calculator? Well, we wanted to speed code the 1985 DOS game Daleks on the TI-83 calculator and then play the game after coding it. So I'll explain quickly how the game works. There's one enemy that gets added every level. You have 8 direction controls, up, down, left, right, and diagonal. You have infinite teleports to any random map location via the TARDIS, but it's kind of dangerous to use that because you can land on top of a Dalek and die. And then you also have one use of the sonic screwdriver per level, which kills surrounding Daleks, but then if you use that, you can't use it again, so again, kind of dangerous. The task codes the game and then plays the game after coding it in the TI Basic. So we're going to show you how that happens here.
Go for it. Hasn't started yet.
Yep,
There it is.
there we go.
So it's fast. It's really fast. This is an example of speed coding. Biscuit and Adelicat have both dabbled in this in the past, where they show what it would look like if you could write code at extremely fast, perfect code, extremely quickly, no mistakes, and it actually compiles and runs.
And we're making complex use of the list functions and some other list comparison operations you can do in TI Basic to script these inputs. It's really complicated.
Yeah. And the code is kind of interesting. You can sort of see the code slowly sliding up the screen. It's almost done, though.
So we teleport next to one of the Daleks, kill it with the sonic screwdriver, and force the other one to run into the other Dalek, which kills it. And that's the next point of the game.
Yeah.
So there's one new guy per level. And you can see kind of how it looks very similar to the original 1985 game there in that slide we had up.
You want to show the piano roll real quick?
Yeah, let's do that. So we also wanted to show you guys what all those inputs look like while we're playing it back. And this is going to slow down the emulation of the platform slightly. We can't quite handle drawing all of the inputs quickly enough.
Well,
so.
your computer can't handle that. No. It is pretty hardcore. Oh, and you want to follow it, too.
Hold on.
Yeah, you definitely want to follow that. So while he's showing you this, it's interesting that it's a piano roll, because that's actually the predecessor, if you will, the spiritual, I guess you might say, grandparent of TASing. As crazy as this might sound, all the way back in the 1920s, it was ridiculously common to have a player piano at home. A lot of people thought it was pretty cool to be able to buy music from a roll store, take it home to your player piano, and pop that roll in your piano, and it would make music for you. It predated phonograph and other audio methods, audio reproduction methods.
While this is running, I'd like to point out a couple of the things about the different colors there. The green means it's actually accepting the input from the emulator or into the ROM. Red is lag frames. It's basically nothing will happen there, and it will get pretty nasty in some games. Like, I was messing around with Final Fantasy 1, and every other frame was pretty much a lag frame.
And it's really fun in Pokemon. You can see when Pikachu cries, it's just this stream of red lag frames.
Yeah, obviously the game is not, a lag frame in this case means the game is not accepting input on that frame. And this will mess you up in some games. But you see this piano roll, well, it turns out that all that a piano roll is a scripted series of buttons to press on a keyboard. And a task is nothing more and nothing less than a scripted series of buttons to press on a controller. Now, someone at some point with making piano rolls discovered that there are 88 keys on a keyboard but only 10 fingers on humans. And so they started adding extra holes. That's basically what we can do with TASBot, because we can press more buttons faster than a human could do. So anyway, this is just a really good example of a piano roll. We're going to move on to the next segment. I want to move on to the concept of console verification, which is over here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where TASBot came from. Now, TASBot himself here isn't all that interesting. He is nothing more and nothing less than a Rob robot holding what we call a replay device. So one of the things that's interesting here is that, actually, I'm going to back up here for a second. As emulators became more accurate than the really bad Fantasia all the way back in 2003, they got to a level of accuracy where they were matching frame for frame how the actual hardware worked. And that allowed for some really interesting things to happen. I'm going to go through a quick history of this. The first console verification device that was attempted was this PIC device from someone named True. It was able to press buttons, kind of sort of worked. Now, also in 2009, someone who's actually here at the event and didn't tell anybody in TAS videos that this was a thing, Jaku made a replay device with a BS2 piece of hardware. And he managed to complete the entire first level of Super Mario Bros. 1 before anyone else did. But we didn't know about it in the TAS videos community at the time. So Micro 500 was the first person in 2011 to make a device, which he called his NES replay device, that was able to complete an entire game. And that was famously used by Dark Kobold back in SGDQ 2011 as the first time a TAS was shown. And you can see that the device was a little bit dangerous. A lot of wires on a breadboard. There were a bunch of other devices that came out that same year. Droid 64 from SoulCal, which played in Nintendo 64 games. Micro 500 made his own N64 replay device. But TASBot has his own special berth. And there's some stuff that's not actually in these slides that I got to tell you because you care. You're a Games Done Quick community and you actually care about this. In 2013, GoSonic extended his device to make an SNES and a Genesis device. And True made his NES SNES replay device specifically for AGDQ 2014. And it was a very inexpensive device. It was able to stream data through it, but it was also kind of limited in data rates. So in 2014, I took a Rob robot. You can actually see that initial picture there. This was sitting on my desk all the way back in the end of 2013. And I just took Legos and the replay devices from True, and it was a Raspberry Pi at the time. I threw it together and I called it a Robberry Pi. And I made a submission for AGDQ 2014, and it was accepted. And immediately, I believe it was Mecha Richter said, "I'm gonna dig this TASBot run," and he's been known as TASBot ever since. So my name sucked. I just got to tell you, my name was terrible.
Yeah, that was definitely an improvement.
Yeah, it was definitely an improvement. Well, I don't know. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you got to give credit to somebody else. I now consider myself the keeper of TASBot. I don't necessarily consider him mine only. And TASBot is pretty much any combination of a replay device with Rob. You know, he's just this cute little guy right here. He's his own little person. Right now, the replay device I have on here is a different board that we made later. But in 2015, True made a multi-replay device that was self-contained, which was kind of interesting. Every other device we have relies on a PC, but he made one that was completely self-contained with an SD card on it.
That's the one used for the Atari run, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the one and only console verification of an Atari 2600 run, which was Dragster. You'll never guess what time we got. Anyway.
If you could just hold on there for I'll mention too, now in 2017 with the Game Boy Player, we have a revision of that using Game Boy interface with Extremes as platform. So that's improved since then.
Yeah, and you might want to watch the block tonight. For those of you who are live in the room, you might want to watch the task block tonight. We might be employing something about that. Stay tuned. So it's time for a live demo. It's quite honestly way over time for a live demo. We're 30 minutes into an hour talk, and we haven't even done a live demo. So it's time to fix that. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull up the NES here. So we have our NES. I'm going to turn them off.
That's the Super NES. There you go.
I couldn't stand up far enough.
We could get a time shifter, our lovely assistant, to come poke buttons.
Well, yeah, I could. Our lovely
Or
assistant.
Our lovely assistant.
Anyway, so what I'm going to do here is start up. Oh, you know, I never actually figured out what the address of that thing was.
Oh.
Oh, well, then this is going to be really entertaining. We're going to do it this way. Okay, we should have audio coming out HDMI. Okay, of course we don't, because nothing ever works right the first time. We'll get you audio. You have no audio coming through HDMI? Yeah. I think it's trying to do it in...
Is OBS set to your normal device still?
Yeah, it should be. Let's double check. Well, then there's that. So that happens. Let's try that. Oh, I should definitely have audio going through HDMI as far as I can tell. It'll be really, really unfortunate if we don't. But we can give you an 1/8" headphone jack too. Yeah, that might work better. Yeah, can you throw that over here? We're going to want that in a bit. So while I talk through, while we're getting audio set up, which unfortunately we didn't get a chance to test beforehand, I want to talk about what's actually happening here because it's pretty nutty. I mean, really nutty. So I've got my slides up here. So we put some limits on ourselves. We didn't want any cheating. We didn't want to put something between the game and the console, and we didn't want to do anything like press up and down or left and right simultaneously, because you could do that, but anyway. But we did take advantage of a hardware bug, which I'm going to explain really quick. I'll just run through this really fast. So what we do at the beginning of this task is we're moving shells back and forth, one little step at a time, and we used a Lewis script to help figure out where we needed the shells to be. So we're using their X and Y coordinates and where they left the screen to arrange a series of bytes in memory. Then we abuse a DPCM audio glitch that exists in all NES consoles, and we use that to pass alternating patterns of buttons on each pole. So every time it asks for input, we give it a different set of input, and it needs 2 of them to be the same in a row for it to accept that as valid controller button presses and give them onto the game. We keep it so busy that it doesn't do some housekeeping it would normally do, and it does that weird glitchy thing you saw. Now, the next thing we did is we executed what was in the controller registers, jumped to the address of where all those shells were effectively, and then did this. So after we did this high-speed block loader, we did this little scene here that you saw, this demo scene that had all these credits at the bottom, and moved on to this hidden stage 5. This is what we showed at AGDQ 2017, but you didn't see all the behind-the-scenes stuff. So this really is playing some really decent mono audio.
So where's the extractor? Because it sounds like we might have to use it. It's in one of these guys after it.
The extractor?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in that bag. But I don't think it'll work because I'm not getting any audio out at all. I'm sure it's my laptop and not that. The problem is I have unplugged and replugged and moved everything around and reassigned audio devices like crazy. No sane person ever does the stupid things we end up doing. But we're going to move on to something else. We're going to play Super Mario World. And you might have seen us play Super Mario World before, but we're going to do it in a slightly different way. So I'm going to turn this off, because there's no point trying to keep that up and running. And we're going to switch to a different output, right?
I'm going to laugh if this
Here.
works.
Of course it's not going to work. I also don't know if I need to do the del save first, so it's going to be fun.
No signal.
No signal?
Yeah.
Well, that's because I turned it off.
Oh. I thought you were turning it on.
No. We're going to see if I need to delete the save file. Let's see.
You mean you haven't made it just nuke SRAM automatically yet?
No, that one doesn't do that. I possibly could, but just do this. They'll save, and it's on ACM 0. So I'm specifying the exact serial device that this is connected to. Oops. ACM 0, and that is... Okay, so if I turn this console on, it should attempt to nuke everything.
From orbit?
It didn't do anything. Oh, it didn't do anything because I never plugged it in.
This is only a fraction of what it's like to watch a joint mission.
Yeah.
It's bad. All right. So that's better. So that nuked the file. Now that we've nuked the save file, I can show you this payload that we have all set up just for you, which is going to be...
That's missing half of it.
It's missing half of it?
Well, the audio.
Yeah, the audio is like totally missing. It's very unfortunate. This is like the worst possible outcome. We have analog audio right here if we could just figure out a way to cable it over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just RCA.
Yay.
Okay.
Well, I can maybe get him back on the Wi-Fi if you don't delete him.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah.
I can switch spots.
Well, anyway.
Change
So,
places.
change places. actually, if someone, Time Shifter, can you go to the practice room and see if they have a headphone to an 1/8" jack to RCA? That would be really useful. It would solve all of our problems. Because I realize coming off of the OSSC is still a headphone jack.
There's an extension here
But-
for RCs.
We'll need that later too.
Power cords.
So meanwhile, Super Mario World is playing. And I want you to pay close attention to what mean things he does to this Charge and Chuck. It's actually kind of mean. Keeps bonking him in the head. Looks at him as he jumps over. And then, of course, crazy happens. And you can see that on the visualization boards up here. And then this happens. This is a 16-bit, 32 kilohertz stereo PCM audio player. And the audio that comes out of this is so amazingly good that we're going to try to show you by the end of the talk what it sounds like, because it's just too good to miss. Okay, I actually played the wrong payload, but that's okay. So go ahead and cancel that. We're going to play it one more time.
Oh, which one?
It'll be Control R int, INT, and then change ACM1 to ACM0. So you'll have to press left on the, yeah, just replace that with a 0. So then hit enter, and then hit Control C, and then go up 3 until you get to the del save. That one, yep. Run that, and then we get to delete this really quick because we missed one very important thing you want to know about.
That's exactly what happened. You ended up on the other network.
All right, now go up 2.
Up 2?
Yep, to Mr. Wint. Yep, that one.
Okay.
There we go. So we're going to do that all over again because I want to show you something while we're trying to sort out audio that's kind of more interesting. It's possibly something you've never actually seen before. Maybe, depends. You've certainly never seen it the way we're going to show it to you. Yes, well, with no sound, but that's not the point. You've never heard this before. You won't be hearing it now. In a world where Yoshi is just a tool.
Oh, yes.
I'm so sorry.
TASBot's all about speed, man.
Oh, by the way, my layout in the lower corner, it says all your base are belong to us. At pretty much any time, you can go type in my channel and select a color and an XY pixel location, an XY coordinate, and make a pixel of any color you like. And you can just keep doing that until you draw whole images.
Wi-Fi, but we can do a different thing.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to play Super Mario World? Are you sure we're playing Super Mario World? No. Yeah, how about
I
that?
was going to use mine.
Okay. Who is brave enough to play this? All right, come on up.
Hang on, let me just go to the non-5G. That'll work.
There you go.
Okay, there you go. It's open now.
I can reach this one from the
Your monitor is a terrible laggy mess, so good luck. Yeah, right there. And when I say a terrible laggy mess, I mean really a terrible laggy mess. But it is going to prove that it is real. Well, remember it's the original.
That kid is real. Or is your user?
Oh.
I'm on the non-5G.
Dwango, can you make sure he's?
Oh, yeah.
Press start, yeah.
Oh. There we go.
And then I found the non-5G version of the network, and I'm going to connect to that one.
So in case you didn't follow that, he's playing Super Mario Bros. 1
Away from the
or Super Mario World in Super Mario Bros.
router to get the
Is that how that works, Dwango? What exactly is going on here?
So what is going on? Lots of death because the lag is absolutely atrocious with all the video capture craziness. But it is fully playable. And it is actually playing the sound effects from Super Mario All-Stars. It's okay. Yeah, because it just sounds cool that way. This was a very interesting feat by Masterjun and P4 Plus 2. So while you're playing, I'm just going to run through some quick slides about this. It's pretty crazy to see Super Mario Brothers inside of Super Mario World. And really it comes down to some crazy things happening in the object attribute memory, the OAM. You have to move a whole bunch of things around like these Koopa shells and get memory organized in very specific binary sequences. There's a whole video by Dots Are Cool that explains this, and that's what we're using here. I love how he references it as the magic school bus. But the ultimate result is just by input, you can either jump directly to the credits sequence or even do something as crazy as putting Super Mario Brothers 1 inside of Super Mario World, which is really kind of crazy that it was possible to do that. And you made it to the end of the level, yay! Okay.
Got 211.
Thank you. So it is legitimately fully playable. We did this at SGDQ 2015. It did not go well. It's a really great time to talk about electromagnetic interference. EMI is a thing. So is a lot of other problems you could have. ESD is a thing. So did we ever find an audio cable? No way? Nothing? All right. So the only way we're going to do this is grab yours over there. You said you could take RCA, right? All right. We're going to downgrade in quality just a little bit. We're going to use the, oh, and I need the, can you grab, Time Shifter, can you grab the non-OSC based, the non-RGB cable for the SNES?
The normal cable for those of you playing the home game.
Yeah.
That is actually a valid question.
Oh, and I also need the other one of these couplers, unless you have a coupler here. Do you happen to have an RCA coupler? All right, Illy, go get the coupler.
Billy, away!
Illy, away! This is the
So-
craziest talk ever.
For you? No, it isn't.
Yeah, well, you know, it's pretty normal for me, I suppose.
Yeah. I got you on the network too.
Oh, sweet.
.211.
Okay. Well, that's fine.
And I'm SSH'd into it now.
Sweet. That helps a lot.
Yeah, that's shuffling of laptops.
Yeah.
Still not the oddest thing we've done.
No, I'm afraid not. We've done some pretty crazy stuff. So you should get audio this time.
Can I answer your question, Shifter?
And let me get video for you, because you want that. It's not going to look as good. I think that even worked. All right, I think that did the del save. Should have. You don't think it did? It's always fine to run it again. We'll see in a second. Now we finally have audio, though, and it's a really important part of this. Oh, yeah, we definitely deleted it. So now that we've got that, now we can show you this. And this is really what we've been wanting to get to the entire talk.
Shifter's going to do a redraw also for you.
Oh, that'd be cool. Let's do this. Okay, we get to watch Super Mario World one last time. But now you can hear audio. So
It's like Bowser's at it again.
Yeah, nice. That's a redraw in the lower left corner. Nice.
Yeah.
Did it right away. So you can see the paint by number redrawing in the lower left corner. We end up with full-on animations on my stream on a regular basis. It's pretty cool.
Yep.
So this is the part where he's setting up the object attribute map with shells in specific locations. But this particular payload works slightly differently than the one that Dots Are Cool explained. This was a later way of exploiting things that was a little bit faster. So all that backtracking is just to get objects in that OAM table in just the right way. Because there aren't not as many objects on screen after this, so those memory values stay put. Now the funny thing is you've kind of still got a Yoshi stored in one sense. You'll see Yoshi pop back up again later. We had one payload, I think it had 5 Yoshis at the same time.
I can remember that one.
It's crazy. All right. So now we have a real payload. Now, where should we send this? I think I know where I'm going to
Down the
send it.
hall, I'd vote.
No. We're going to send it to PBN.
PBN.
Yeah.
I hope not.
Oh, no, not PBN. PSB, sorry. PBN is paint by numbers. PSB is something entirely different, which I just need to change this to point to ACM0, the serial device.
Let me restart that so it'll be at the beginning of the song, too.
Yeah, let me know when I should hit enter. You ready?
Not for that one, no. Too many TMUX windows.
This is a pretty common problem. We have so many terminals all over the place that it tends to get pretty complex. How about now?
I don't think it's running.
Well, that's not going to work very well. Should I play something local?
No, just go with other side.
Okay. Oh, wait, whoa, that one is running? Okay.
Yeah, that one is running.
All right. You got it. We're going to do other side and hope that it buffers long enough to be able to work out. So you'll see some interesting graphical things happening here.
Minutes 45 seconds. We will watch with continuing interest the AOS clock here in Mission Control.
This is a song by Public Service Broadcasting called Other Side. And it's talking about the Apollo 8 mission as they go around the dark side of the moon.
The reason we picked it is because it has pretty good stereo audio.
Side of the moon now. Our velocity reading here 7,777 feet per second.
And just to recap, if you look at the controller visualization board, you can see how it's streaming the inputs to the controllers to feed the data of the song into the SNES, and then have the SNES play back the song.
Yeah.
It is running, I just don't know where it's at.
It's running, but you don't know where it's at?
Yeah, I don't know which terminal it's on.
Oh, that's a problem. Well, I think we can do one step better than this, though.
Oh yeah, that's definitely.
I think we should take this to the next level, because why not? Let me prep that for you.
Apollo Control, Houston, we've acquired signal, but no voice contact yet. We're standing by.
Oh.
We're looking at engine data, and it looks good. Tank pressures look good.
So, I'm going to drop this audio. I love this song. This song is so good.
Apollo 8, this is Houston, over.
That was a huge moment right there. Huge moment in history, but we're going to just kill that moment in history right here because I'm ruthless. Yeah, that's
normal. That's
yeah,
supposed
that's
to happen.
normal. Not being able to see my terminal.
This happens.
Not DJ TASBot.
That'd actually be cool. I'd love to see that.
Unfortunately, I can't actually see the. Okay, here we go. Okay, there we go. All right. Now we need to GDQ audio as our payload, and give me just 1 second. Oh, this is so painfully slow. So there's some amount of lag across the wireless network, and trying to type on here, to type in the address of this other stream we want to show you, is taking a fair bit of effort because I don't know how many times I've hit backspace. And I was in.
AUI.
Got it.
The
Here goes.
exit is near the bottom. There's an invisible barrel there.
It's
It's
actually the only reason you could escape that room.
It's actually
So this is streaming the actual
actually
Twitch.
a gas barrel. Like you can go in the room and shoot. But if it wasn't for the heroic barrel there, you wouldn't be able to get through. So that's
Right now, across the hotel at SGDQ 2018, they are doing whatever you're hearing right now. And everyone in this room is hearing it on this Super Nintendo. This is definitely TASBot. Literally plays SGDQ.
I hope you enjoyed the setup time for that, because I think that was worth it. I think that was worth it.
And he's learned more moves,
No.
which means that there's longer between each time.
So
we
that
get
was
in.
the audio output. Yeah, we'll just mute those out. It really is the thing that we wanted to show you. I'm going to fly through this really fast. There's a ton of equivalence between tool-assisted speedrunning and the InfoSec equivalence. A save state is a lot like a VM snapshot. Frame advance is like going through with a VM CPU step or a tick. A glitch is just a vulnerability in security parlance. An arbitrary code execution is just an exploit. Well, console verification, it's a lot like an evil mate attack. A device that seems innocent, but it does really, really evil things to the... In our case, TASBot is an evil mate attack all the time. He looks so much like a normal controller, and you plug him in, and then things get a little sideways. But the point is that tool-assisted speedruns are fun, they're technical, they're educational. You can, in the safety of an emulator, do things that would otherwise be illegal, right? You can reverse engineer things, you can look in memory, you can find glitches, and you don't even get arrested. So are we cheating when we're doing all this stuff, these tool-assisted speedruns? Not really. We're doing it for the technical challenge and the visual entertainment. There's a lot of other benefits. All the different TAS appearances at past GDQs have already raised over $300,000 for Doctors Without Borders, Prevent Cancer Foundation. It's been amazing to see all the support from the community. Thank you for making that number as high as it is, really, thank you. And I gotta say this one more time. It has been the biggest motivator for us to keep making this kind of crazy content and these crazy payloads. There's a huge number of people involved in the team that make it happen, but a lot of us do it because we've either lost someone to cancer or because we've seen the good that happens out of Doctors Without Borders. So that's really why we keep showing up, sometimes twice a year, to do this. So serious thanks go to MediaMagnet right here, Kevin. Total was the one that made the audio payload that you saw earlier. Micro 500 made the TASLink device that's actually our most flexible device. We're not using it right now just because I wanted to keep everything on the high bit rate. This one is a very flexible board that is what allowed us to play Mario Brothers 1, 2, 3, and Lost Levels simultaneously, and it's a really nice device. And then we have the PSOC 5 board that we're using here was made by Total. So these are the two big replay devices we use the most. Lord Tom did the Super Mario Brothers 3 payload part of it. Masterjun helped with, or did most of Mario World. Ilari helped code the emulator for, the SNES emulator we used for all the Mario World stuff. Invariel, Jaku, Ownasaurus, P4+2, kodewerx, AS523, fuzyll, a gazillion others were all involved in the making of stuff you saw in this presentation. There's just too many other people to thank. So last thing, Ange Albertini helped me make all of the graphical artwork for these slides. Serious props to him. You can get this TASBot t-shirt. It is amazing. It is available, I believe, on Redbubble. We're going to try to get a link on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/DwangoAC to merch. I'm going to hopefully get that done over the course of this next couple of days because he makes awesome graphics and this shirt is really cool. We don't have a lot of time for Q&A because we blew through all of it for setup and other crazy. We are, in fact, at 1 hour and 4 minutes of our actual presentation. That was after starting late. But I think we have just enough time. Are there any major questions from anybody?
About the NES for the PCM glitch, that turns out to be good for the fun stuff you're doing. It seems like that would be bad.
So the way we handle working around the PCM glitch that happens on the NES is actually very straightforward. We use what we call a window mode. So on the NES, if you sit down and play Super Mario Brothers 3 and start playing, it's asking the controller, hey, what buttons are you pressing? And then a few milliseconds later, it asks again, hey, what buttons are you pressing? And in most cases, those two will match. When a hardware bug is triggered, completely at random, where the PCM audio that Super Mario Bros. 3 uses for that steel drum effect is played, it could interfere with reading the controller address. They can comply it on the open bus, and the result is that bits are dropped from the controller. If that happens, the first controller read and the second controller read don't match. Now, they're happening on the same frame. So in most cases, the routine that does this is completely transparent and you never see it as a runner. It reads it again, they were different, it throws out the first result, reads it again, those two results match, it passes that on to the game and moves on with life. You will never see this issue happen to you. What we do is evil. Every time it reads, we give it a different set of inputs so those two never ever match and it never completes before the end of the frame. And all the housekeeping that it should have done never got completed. So it ends up executing some really crazy, wacky stuff, including whatever is legitimately now in the controller registers when you stop doing that whole swapping thing. So, but this bug affects every single PCM game that was ever created. So if it uses PCM audio, you can almost guarantee that the game is going to have to do something extra to get the controller data. Now, the original Mario Brothers didn't use PCM audio. So every single frame has exactly one pole of the controller, and that's it. That was why it was easier to verify Super Mario Brothers 1. Super Mario Brothers 3 could call it twice, but it might call it 3 times or more if things are really odd. So for that, we have a window mode that says after we get a first latch in a frame, if we get another latch, another request for controller button presses in the same window of time, consider it the same frame. And that window mode is how we are able to sequentially move forward. Now, at a certain point, we don't want that anymore when we want to send out really high frame rate stuff. So we have a timer that says after this many frames, turn off that mode so that we can start sending large quantities of data for audio payloads.
Would there ever be a benefit to pulling the video sync from the video so there's no doubt about
It doesn't actually give us any additional data that we don't already have. We really only care about polling audio, or I'm sorry, polling for latches. There are times where the console will not poll for a controller input, as we demonstrated earlier in the piano roll where it was pink. When that happens, we don't get a signal, and that's actually what we want, because that's not a time where we can press a button. Now, we can, on our own, keep track of time. We can know exactly how far we are in time in a video if that's necessary. But in most cases, latches alone are all we need, which is kind of interesting. It means that TASBot is effectively always blind. Replay devices in general, the only signal they have to know when to go press the next button is the game asking for the next latch and having every single latch in order ahead of time in a prearranged sequence. Even one little misstep, like, oh, I don't know, microphone cables being pulled over the top of your controller cables while you're playing Gradius, approaching a really crazy sequence where the audience claps, and the interference with the microphone causes interference on the line, which causes it to be one frame off, and you dive right into a volcano.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that happens. So that's why we're using shielded cables made by Micro 500. These things are very durable and pretty awesome. Great question.
Yeah, the other...
I think we're running out of time, but what's up? Yeah, okay. Whoever has a really good question, is it a great question? I think so. Okay, what's your great question? Are there any other events besides GDQ? Well, I'll tell you this. A man-year of effort went into Pokemon Plays Twitch. The amount of work that it took to do the AGDQ 2017 payload was out of this world and resulted in burnout from several of our members. I mean, I cannot even begin to tell you how crazy it was. If you have not watched the AGDQ 2017 task portion, you should, because there were so many hours of effort into that it's insane. We're lucky to be able to do 2 events a year. But I'm always interested in the possibility of doing, I don't know, a longer RPG sometime. There's some other events out there that maybe we'll show up at. But all of my personal effort, because I love the charities that GDQ supports so much, all of my main effort goes to that. So now I've presented at places like DEF CON and ThoughtCon and GeekPwn and some other cool places, but I'm just the presenter and the organizer. I'm representing an entire team of people. Some of them are on stage, some of them are in the audience here right now. There's too many to count, and I can't take credit for all of their work. So it's really taking into consideration not driving those people into the ground and causing burnout. Yeah. But we haven't run out of material.
Oh, no.
Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you very much for putting up with the technical issues. Thank you so much for your audience and participation. They're great.